turn on the webcam so that the others can now hear me. If you're watching this on either Next Gen Conservative TV or on Calgary Nation, you can watch the video feed there. You can see me over here. We're going to be doing a special video over. We're going to be streaming a video tape over on NGC TV, and I'll explain what that is here in a second. But first of all, folks, as I said, tonight we've got a whole bunch of content to get into here tonight, and I don't. There's so much there's so much to go over tonight, and so much to cover. Uh, that really I don't want to waste any time getting into it. But let me just I I've wanted to share something with you that has been crossing my mind a lot lately, and folks, as many of you may or may not know, um, next Thursday, July 18th. Let me just go double and check this, but I believe um that 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 next that actually no, it's this coming Tuesday, July 16th. So this coming Tuesday, I was right, in fact. It's this coming Tuesday, July 16th, is the 1 year mark, and pardon the pause there for a sec, folks, but this coming Tuesday, July 16th, is the 1 year mark of the Aurora theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado. Um, and this is something that uh, not a lot of conservative commentators are going to be talking about here. But I want to talk about it for a specific reason, and that reason is that on Tuesday, you can bet, and remember, you heard it here first, you can bet without a doubt that the liberal establishment is going to be calling for gun control. They're going to be calling for gun control as they always do, but it's going to be they're going to trot out all these audio sound bites and all these TV sound bites of the Aurora shooting, and they're going to essentially uh, use it to say, oh, we need to pass gun control. We need to pass gun control. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot here tonight, and also coming up in the second hour of the program, I have an article about the Zimmerman case because it is coming to an end here, and I have a couple articles from Breitbart.com about that that I want to cover. But first, I do want to spend some time covering this whole gun control debate issue since the Aurora theater shooting. Uh, since that, I don't really want to call it an anniversary because it's not appropriate to call it an anniversary because an anniversary implies that you're celebrating something. And, you know, this coming Tuesday, July 16th, as I said before, will more or less mark the 1 year anniversary of uh, the Aurora shooting. And as I said before, the liberals in the liberal media and the liberal politicians are going to use this day, this 1 year anniversary, again, even though it's not really appropriate to call it an anniversary, they're going to use it as an excuse to tote gun control legislation again. They're going to use it to get inside the heads of people. They're going to use it to guilt more Americans into giving up their guns. You heard it first here on the Whitfield Analysis, folks. They're going to use the 1 year mark as an excuse to make it a political day. And it's really sickening, but I know that's what they're going to do because that's how the liberal left always works. So, in order to counter that, I I found an interview on YouTube, an old interview. Ted Nugent is, as most of you know, he's a rock and roll star from his heyday was back in the mid '70s. He's still active, but he's also an avid Second Amendment rights guy, big time conservative. One of my all-time favorite musicians, and one of my all-time favorite conservative figures. And Ted Nugent uh, was one of the guests on Piers Morgan's show. Remember, Piers Morgan is the British guy who is absolutely opposed to gun control. And this interview, I want to play the full thing for you tonight because A, it shows the absolute genius of Ted Nugent, but then it also shows, uh, why this whole gun control, why the left pushing for gun control is so incredibly stupid. And so I'm going to be playing this interview for you here tonight on the radio, but then I also have the video feed. I have the video up on the queue, and I'm going to be playing the video back for you here tonight on NGC TV as well. And I want you guys to listen to this interview. And again, this whole thing is about 26 minutes long, but I am going to be breaking it down and giving my commentary here and there. So, anyway, let's go ahead and play this interview. This is Ted Nugent on gun control on Piers Morgan's show, and he absolutely whoops Piers Morgan's butt on this topic. I mean, there's no comparison. So let's start this interview, and we'll get it queued up, and then we'll start listening to it. And I will pause this time from time to time to interject my comments here or there. So this interview should take up the first hour probably, and then the second hour will most likely get into the Zimmerman case. Anyway, though, here is the interview with Ted Nugent and Piers Morgan. Let's take a listen.
Ted Nugent joins me now. Ted Nugent.
Greetings. How are you, Pierce?
I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks for having me here, man.
I'm going to say, for probably all the wrong reasons, I've been looking forward to this. It's like meeting a kind of
there are no wrong reasons
television matador. I've seen all your previous interviews.
And you're the bull? I'm the matador?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure which one is the bull.
I'll guide you through this.
You're confident, aren't you?
Yes. Have you noticed that?
You think you're going to take me down?
No, not at all. Are you needing to be taken? If you need to be taken down, I shall respond.
No, but I read a great line where you gave this
all my lines
interview.
are great, but go ahead.
You gave an interview to some guy on a BBC show.
Boy, did they need me there, huh?
And just to describe how you thought things went with this British interview, you said, they sent this young limey prick who pretended to be my friend. He tried to, with me, on all these politically incorrect levels. I gutted him. I danced on his skull.
But before I gutted him
on my skull?
But before I gutted him and danced on his skull, I was so hospitable and loving and welcoming him to the Nugent tribe that when he tried his little tricks on me and his leftist thing to get against my hunting and my guns, for example, how could I not gut him? But I gutted him with tender, loving care and with truth and logic. And even at the end, he finally went, "Uncle!" It was beautiful, because I'm right, he was wrong. It's the story of my life.
Yeah, I mean, you have this completely, I don't know, irrefutable self-logic that everything you say is right.
Yeah, and your point would be what?
My point would be, I mean, do you ever accept that you might be wrong?
Mrs. Nugent's here. Was there a time? Let's put it this way. I'm 63. I've been clean and sober my whole life. I was raised in a hardcore, disciplined environment to be the best that I can be and not guess at things, but to study evidence, study conditions, be aware of my cause and effect, and make a decision not based on what felt good or what was comfortable for me, but rather what lessons of life taught me. So when I put forth what people call an opinion, I mean, and you stop me if you disagree with my opinion, I'm sure you will, but I don't project opinions as much as I do share observations of life's realities and the evidence that brings either a quality of life when adhered and learned from, or destroyed life when ignored and not learned.
What's your view of America right now?
My view of America right now is so beautiful I can hardly stand myself. Now, that being said, we want to celebrate the good while we scrutinize and put our heart and soul into fixing the bad and ugly. So there's lots of good. Americans are still producing and still giving. We have the terrible victims of the floods now on the Mississippi. We have the terrible victims of the fires in Texas. We have the tragedy of the victims of the tornadoes in the South. You know what I think about America? Unlimited generosity. People traveling thousands of miles to help people they don't even know. That's the glowing, unstoppable
What don't you like
good.
about America?
I don't like about America is what is being celebrated in politics, where instead of being the best that you can be, we seem to be engineering more and more safety nets, which creates, encourages, and rewards an uncaring disconnect.
What do you mean safety nets?
Well, safety nets, welfare, for example. Welfare isn't just about helping the needy anymore. Welfare is now about rewarding people who take advantage of the corruption and abuse of that condition. That's more widespread than actual needy people getting help. I don't know how often you shop around this country or how often you hang out with people around this country, but it is...
We can see, folks, and for those of you watching the TV, I just paused the clip. It's obvious to me. You know, Piers Morgan starts off the interview talking about what he feels is good about America and what he feels is going right with America, and you know, the fact that Americans are always, that the general American is always generous, really cares for his fellow man. I think that's a trait that I think many of us can agree with absolutely no problem. I think it's absolutely true, and I love the fact that he starts that interview off so positive. Now he's going to go and talk about what he doesn't like about America. And he's going to be talking about welfare more specifically. And I will touch on that real quick here, but let's continue this interview, shall we? Okay, so here we are continuing the interview between Piers Morgan and Ted Nugent.
Not like the president said, the America he doesn't know that people are using food stamps for something other than good nutrition. You gotta be kidding me! We've got a bunch of idiots out there that are absolutely raping and pillaging and otherwise positive humanitarian system.
One of the problems, I've studied your work for a while. And I admire,
no wonder you glow. You have a certain glow.
Well, I admire the passion you bring to it. I've no problem with people having opinions, even if I don't agree with some of them. My issue about you and the welfare thing is it showed no sense of compassion for people who have genuine problems, who genuinely need it. Your judgment, if you don't mind me saying, is all-encompassing. It's all sweeping. You think they're all on the fiddle.
No, I don't.
On the
no, I don't. But I don't think I know, and the statistics support, once again, my sharing with you the statistics, that the abuse, the corruption in that system is not about helping someone who, through no fault of their own, fell on hard times, but widespread abuse.
Yeah, but I've said you say you don't have a welfare system for armed forces people, for example.
Well, certainly. I've always raved that the most important, the most deserving are the children who, through no fault of their own, encounter horrible diseases and conditions, and the heroes of the military who literally knowingly went into harm's way to sacrifice their limbs.
Which
so
I agree with, and I have a brother who's in the British Army.
But let me put it this way, real simple.
Let me finish my thread on that.
All right.
I have a brother who's in the Army, so I totally subscribe to your view of the forces. But that doesn't mean to say that they are any less susceptible to being corrupt when it comes to welfare than anybody else, does it?
No, not at all. In fact, there's a lot of corruption, a lot of waste in even those government programs. I mean, I know a lot of guys, my wife and my family and I do charity work for military heroes all the time. And I got guys with no legs that went into that war on terror hellstorm knowing that they would probably not come out without any legs or arms and maybe in a flag-draped coffin, but they went anyway because that's the warrior spirit that they have. And they're still waiting for their prosthetics. They're still waiting for the special wheelchair. But maybe there's some child rapist in prison who's getting a new liver transplant this week. That's the corruption, the abuse in a most outrageous
you're very pro the troops, and I get that. But you yourself, you dodged the draft.
Now see, I'm glad we're here on the Piers Morgan Show to set that straight for the 10 millionth time.
Set the record straight.
No, I did not dodge the trap. I was 17, and I was a clueless idiot, which most 17s qualify. I bet you were to
I was quite smart.
Being that as it may, no, I was enrolled in Oakland Community College, and I had a one-wide deferment. Did I register? I registered. Did I volunteer? No. Should I have? Yes.
Do you regret that?
I do regret it on one level. On the most important, fundamental level, is that I have a duty to earn this experiments in we the people's self-government. And I've spent my time and I've intentionally put myself in harm's way going over to Iraq and Afghanistan, right into the hell zones of unnamed trenches and the Afghanistan danger zones. It's
part of that a guilt thing on your part?
No, not a guilt thing. It was just the right thing to do. At some point, let's pretend I was a heroin addict when I was 17. Would you bring that up if I've been clean and sober for 50 years?
Probably, yeah.
You're such a bastard. But see, I wouldn't. I would say, my God, you haven't done that stupid thing in so long. Let's stick with the clean and sober longevity instead of going back and nitpicking of something that you obviously overcame. So I was...
This is a point. I don't know, for those of you who are watching the TV, I don't know how well the video is syncing up with the audio I'm playing here on the radio show. And I apologize if it's not... the Ustream producer thing that I'm software that I'm using is a little iffy, shall we say, on video playback sometimes. Anyway, for those of you who might not be at the part in the video where I am with the radio audience. Piers Morgan just brought up Ted Nugent's draft expert, quote-unquote draft dodging. He brings that topic up, and I absolutely love the response that Ted is going to give Piers on this, because this is the truth about the whole draft Ted Nugent never dodged the draft. That magazine interview he did, in fact, there is an audio clip that I didn't have time to upload today, but I'll get to it tomorrow probably, of Ted Nugent explaining that whole interview in that magazine back in 1973, because it's absolutely a false interview. Anyway, let me play this clip of him talking to the interviewer. It's talking about the quote-unquote draft dodging thing. It's absolutely hilarious what Ted says about this, but it's also true. So let's continue. So this is Ted's response to Pierce on dodging the draft. Let's take a listen.
Foolish young man
Yeah.
who didn't understand. Well, how's this, Piers? When I graduated, how old are you?
I'm 46.
All right, I know you respect your elders. I'll be 63. When I graduated, if you said, "So, Mr. Nugent, tell me all about communism," I'd go, "Isn't that where the hippies get together and live?" I was clueless. In my American education upbringing, I never heard about communism. I didn't know anything about it. So do you think I regret not making a decision based on not knowing anything? And I've made up for it since. Not through guilt, but through the maturity of finally knowing what the right thing to do is. And though I was a little bit late, I at least carried my own M16 when I was over there.
Well, yeah, I mean, that all sounds very heroic. But I mean, the truth is that
I wasn't heroic. When the guys that are there all the time.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you had the option when you were young to go to Vietnam. You could have done that.
I know. I was too young and stupid.
And when I see the way you are now with the armed forces and the fact
that how about they call the guys a chicken hawk? I was 17 and 18. Why don't you give me a break? That was, 50 years ago, kid?
But lots of
40-some years.
Lots of 17 and 18-year-olds at the time went to war in Vietnam.
Better people than I. Better men than I.
And so I just come back once more to the motivation for why you now do so much stuff.
Because I've learned that freedom is not free, and I found that the reason the whole world sucks and America sucks less is because the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, outlines an experiment where freedom rules the day of individuality, and that can only be secured by crushing those enemies that would take it away. So those warriors that put themselves in the face of that evil enemy, and anybody who would take away our individual rights and our individual freedoms, they're the enemy. They need to be killed. And the guys that went over and did that, they paid the ultimate sacrifice. I've done so many benefits for so many families of dead heroes of the military. I've held so many kids and mothers crying. I've carried flag-draped coffins home from Baghdad. You don't have to do that much. If you had your time
again, I'm going to go to a break in a minute. If you had a time again, I suspect
there's no denying that Piers Morgan has some issues. I love Ted's question. Would you, if I was a heroin addict, which by the way, most people mistranslate that clip as saying, "Oh, well, Ted Nugent admitted that he was a heroin addict." No, Ted Nugent has never done drugs in his life. He's just saying supposedly. But Piers Morgan, let me play that again real quick. It's classic. I mean, would you bring that up if I'd been clean and sober for 15 years? Probably, yeah. Sorry, that's my best British limey prick imitation. Anyway, that's not a big part of the clip, but that just shows Piers Morgan's true personality. Take from it what you will. I think it speaks volumes. And to Eric in the chat room, I apologize, Eric. My caps lock key was on. So anyway, That's the only reason why we're typing in caps. Anyway, let's continue playing this interview, shall we? We're talking about gun control today, Eric, too.
Now, the Ted Nugent you've become, you'd go to Vietnam, wouldn't you?
Damn right I would.
So would that be, in your eyes, the biggest mistake of your life, do you think?
No, because that
Is there any nobler sacrifice?
There is no nobler sacrifice, none. But you have to be wise enough, knowledgeable enough to make such a noble decision. And I was incapable of both at that age.
Okay, we're going to have a short break. When we come back, I want to talk to you politics, Tea Party.
I love those things.
President Obama.
I love
Race for
President
the
Obama.
White House.
I'm ready to
All of
rock.
it. You ready to roll?
You bet.
I was in Chicago last week. I said, hey, Obama, you might want to suck on one of these, you punk. You don't get it. Obama, he's a piece of shit. And I told him to suck on my machine gun. Let's hear for it. And then I was in New York. I said, hey, Hillary, you might want to ride one of these into the sunset and one of those.
I mean,
Here, don't go wait a second. Did you enjoy that or didn't you?
no, I'm amused by your reaction. You're still
I
finding
mean,
that
you're
hilarious.
not being amused. It's hilarious. I'm on a rock and roll stage. I just sang a song about feisty. I mean, you got to be kidding me. On a rock. Did you ever see Richard Pryor live? How about Sam Kinison? How about Lenny Bruce? I'm one of them. Get over it. That's some funny.
But for a man who is a patriot, who purports to love his country, that was quite shocking disrespect
Well,
to your
let
president.
me put it in official CNN Piers Morgan
Yes.
interview terms. Shall I?
Yes,
My limey friend?
yes.
Anybody that wants to disarm me can drop dead. Anybody that wants to make me unarmed and helpless, people that want to literally create the proven places where more innocents are killed, called gun-free zones, we're going to beat you.
this
We're
is the
going to
problem.
vote you out of office or
Yes.
suck on my machine gun.
Yes, but
you
Ted,
can take it whichever way
much
you
as
want.
I'd love to suck on your machine gun, the whole point of your defence is that a lot of people do drop dead precisely because you are armed to the teeth,
Not
and
true
you'd
at
like
all.
everybody else to be.
Not true at all.
80
Piers,
people.
write this down. See, you're so
No,
rich.
you write this down. 80 people a day die in America from gunshots.
And 75 of them to 78 of them, statistics by the Uniform Crime Report by the FBI and the UN study on violent crime, 78 of those 80 are let out of their cages by corrupt judges and prosecutors who know that recidivism is out of control, know that they'll commit the crimes again, and they let them walk through plea bargaining, early release, and program.
They still
Kiss
can't-
my ass.
Yeah.
Where you have the most armed citizens in America,
Yeah.
you have the
I understand.
lowest violent crime rate, where you have the worst gun control, you have the highest crime rate. Piers, choose one. Do you want a lot of crime? We have it. Gun-free zones. Do you want less crime? We have that. More people with concealed weapons permit. Why do you guys resist that statistic?
Well, don't say you guys.
It's you guys.
No.
Well, unless you're playing the devil's advocate.
I can play any advocate I like.
You're
It's
doing
my
a fine
show.
job.
Right.
You're playing the idiot's
not-
advocate
it's
here.
not- it's not the idiot's
More
advocate.
guns equals less crime.
You're-
Period.
Unless I'm wrong, and I don't want to kiss
I'll be
your,
sure to let you
kiss
know,
your
Trevor.
ass at this point, if you don't mind.
I have no idea where he is now. I think he might be working, so he might have just been logging in and out. But Jason, my friend, we're talking about gun control because Tuesday is the 1-year mark of the Aurora Theater shooting. And Jason, you heard it here first, my friend. But the liberals are going to be using the Aurora shooting as a way to justify gun control. And I know that's true. They're absolute folks. They are going to use the Aurora shooting, even though it happened a year ago. The left is going to act like the Aurora shooting happened that day. You wait and see. I don't make predictions very often, But that prediction of mine, I know is going to come true, because I know the liberal left well enough to know that that's how. I know the liberal left well enough to know that that's what they're going to do. And also, and Jason, in case you don't know who this is, who I've got playing, Ted Nugent is a rock and roller from the 70s. He's still actively playing. In fact, I might get tickets to go see him when he's in Denver. Ted Nugent, though, is also a big-time conservative and a big-time Tea Partier, and he's actually on board of the NRA, so that's why I'm playing the interview. He's probably one of the most knowledgeable guys on gun control that I know of. And this is his debate with Piers Morgan, the limey prick from Great Britain, as I call him. And this is his interview with him from last year, and he absolutely whoops Pierce's ass on the interview. Folks, you'll also be relieved to know that I am not going to cover the Zimmerman trial until like the very end of the show tonight. I'm going to spend maybe 10 minutes on it, maybe even less, because quite honestly, I haven't followed it. There have been too many other topics that I've been following, such as gun control and such as the IRS crisis, and I really don't give a crap about it. So, Eric and Jason, never fear. Don't worry, I'm not going to rant incessantly about the Zimmerman trial, because at the end of the day, it's not a topic that I think affects us as a collective, but gun control does, the IRS does, rock and roll does. Also, I'm going to be playing clips of you and you, Jason, and Light Aloud, because I do want to talk a little bit about JFN tonight, too, folks, in the second hour. But anyway, let me finish playing this interview and making my points about gun control. Anyway, here we go, continuing the interview.
Unless I'm wrong with your argument, well, you're basically saying that 90% of the gun crime comes from people let out of prison.
96%, by the way, but go ahead.
But they still have to get access to firearms. Mm-hmm. If you had your way, there would be 10 times as many firearms, right?
Not true at all.
You want everyone in America to own a gun?
Not at all. I've never said that.
What's your position?
And I got to tell you,
what is your position?
And I hope you don't edit this out. Whenever I've done interviews with guys that are inclined to be anti-gun, they always go, well, Nugent wants everybody to have a machine gun. Nugent wants all the deer dead.
What does Nugent want?
Not even close.
What do you want?
What I want is the Second Amendment. We the people, free individuals to have the right to keep and bear arms for self-defense. Find fault with that.
Well, I can find lots of fault with it.
Name one.
Well, the reality is...
I'll write one down.
Well, you end up with what happened to Gabby Giffords in Tucson out of this.
That guy had gone through the cracks of the mental health system. That guy had given all
How could he be allowed
kinds...
to get a gun?
Because he fell through the cracks, and he didn't qualify to get a gun.
He fell through the cracks.
The cracks of the mental health system. Everybody knew, all his friends, his family was afraid of this guy, but they didn't report it. Nobody reacted to it.
When you see a guy like that get open access to firearms because of the Constitution that you subscribe adhere to so much.
How would you fix that?
Well, I would certainly make it a lot harder for people like him to ever get near a firearm. And that's my argument with the gun lobby, is that it's always very, very aggressive. And even as you've just exploded with me, it's always a violent debate. And it's always like, I want the right to shoot anyone that comes near me who's threatening me. But it's always about that. This guy was unstable.
That if anyone wants to disarm me, they can drop dead. Or they can go F themselves. Whichever they would rather do. Anyway, let me continue playing this clip, this interview from Ted Nugent. I just had to jump in there.
Was able to go and get a firearm because they are freely available in this country.
Now,
and that's where I have a problem with it.
Were you born in England?
I was born in England.
Okay, are you familiar with Ireland?
I am.
Is Molotov cocktails and C4 explosive, those legal in Belfast?
They're terrorists.
Are those items legal in Belfast?
Well, I don't live in Belfast.
Well, then I'll go ahead and educate you.
Certainly
They're banned in Belfast. They're forbidden in Belfast. Do you think anybody had a hard time getting them? If you want something, how about in New York City?
It doesn't mean
It'd take me 15 minutes for me to get a submachine gun in New York City from some paroled crack
Let me
dealer.
spin the argument. Would you allow drugs then to be freely available?
Not at all.
What's the difference in the argument?
Because drugs are 100% about reducing your level of responsibility, getting high, disconnecting. And I'm a cop. I've been a cop for 35 years. I conduct federal raids with the heroes of law enforcement in Texas. In every instance where there is violence, somebody's high on something. But they're not always in possession of a firearms. They do it with Buicks and bricks and fire and chainsaws and pipes.
The guy who shot Gabby Giffords wasn't high. So it wasn't a factor.
No, but he was mentally deranged.
My point about the thread of your argument is you're saying there's a difference, isn't there, between you're saying guns should be made freely available. Right?
No, there should be restrictions.
Let me put something to you. If you think it's wrong, tell me. They should be made available with some restrictions, but not many, from the gun lobby arguments I've read.
Which exists right now.
The reason is if you made them illegal, they'd all be freely available anyway. But with drugs, you say do not make them freely available.
I come from a civilized culture. I'm British, and that makes me better than everyone else because I'm British. And whenever Piers Morgan, whenever anyone confronts him on something that he does, like, he always acts like this. He always gets, like, in a really pissy attitude. And it's absolutely hilarious. I love watching this guy squirm. I absolutely love it. I mean, Piers Morgan is just a he's an absolute dirtbag piece of I mean, I have absolutely no tolerance for the guy whatsoever. He's an absolute dirtbag. Absolute dirtbag. No other way of saying it.
Illegal, even though you know and I know that drives them underground, and probably more people get access to them.
Piers,
What's the difference?
I don't know why you guys either don't study the information or you just resist it. I think you're resisting it. In America, where you have more citizens with guns on their person, you have a dramatic reduction in violent crime. In those areas called gun-free zones, you have a outrageous increase in the loss of innocent lives. That's the choice. Which one would you make? And in America, legally owned guns are used millions of times a year to save innocent lives. You certainly don't believe in calling 911 to stop evil in your home, do you? You don't believe that being unarmed and helpless is a desirable condition? You think unarmed and helpless is something you can control over me? That's weird.
Well, you're putting a lot of words into my mouth. What I do believe is where you dramatically increase the prevalence of guns, more people will die from guns.
No,
and you
false.
don't believe that.
Not only do I believe, the
countries...
FBI doesn't believe it. The FBI recent report, in those jurisdictions where more people have concealed weapons permits, that doesn't mean a gun in the truck or in the safe. It means a gun in their belt. In those jurisdictions, you have not only a dramatic decrease in violent crime, but a personal assault type crimes, carjacking, rape, home invasions. They don't just go down, Pierce. They go away. Now that you know that, why wouldn't you help me create more safe areas?
When we come back, we'll talk about what we're supposed to be talking about, which is President Obama.
I'm with you.
There are bigger fish to fry than white-tailed deer right now. And the fried fish are the corrupt, power-abusing monsters that have weaseled their way into our lives and that control our paychecks and decide to take money from the people who work so hard and give it to idiots.
I like that cowboy.
Well, I like the hat too. There was a Sarah Palin rally. Who, from what I can read, she's the only one you have any time for in the GOP, right?
No,
Pretty much.
I admire a lot of them. I have the greatest governor in the world. My governor shoots coyotes. What does yours do?
He doesn't
Governor
shoot
Rick
coyotes.
Perry's a great man.
But let me show you a few pictures here. Let's go through the GOP candidates as we stand.
Well-groomed young man.
Mitt Romney, your thoughts?
A good man. Not great enough.
Too good for you?
When did Mr. Rogers open up the school of articulation? This guy needs to grow some nuts. This guy doesn't have any passion. We need to get somebody with some feisty attitude. We're in a terrible condition right now. We don't need to be very careful about our articulation.
Here's a guy with passion.
He does have some passion.
And he's got nuts.
And he does have some nuts, and I admire that. I don't think he's presidential.
Did you agree with him about the birther issue?
I agree that we should be able to demand evidence, and I, like he and many others, I had not seen the official document, and I think we, the people, should be able to demand of our elected
Sarah
officials.
Palin?
I have not seen it, but she's not president.
Why aren't you demanding to see hers?
If she runs for president, I would.
No, but some would say that the only reason people wanted to see Obama's is because he's an African American.
And isn't that offensive? Isn't that pathetic that they have to reduce it to a race issue? That is the most evil, rotten, soulless condition in America. That as soon as you disagree with someone of a different color, that the racist accusations fly. That is soulless, inaccurate, and wrong.
Fine. Have you ever asked to see the birth certificate of any other president or presidential candidate?
No, I haven't. I was never active enough in politics.
Why is it so important?
Because the question came up whether it existed. Here's what I would expect, Pierce. And I think, are you an American citizen now?
Not yet.
Well, I'll help you.
A British citizen.
Just hanging out with me is a feather in your cap.
It's probably putting me off.
Somebody bring him a gun. What we need to do in this country is do what the Tea Party is doing. Get our heads out of our ass and get involved. This experiment in self-government demands that we all participate. Now we're getting more involved, but I would like to believe that there is a legislature, that there are senators and congressmen that would make sure the guy that's president qualifies. Call me weird. I didn't think the guitar players had to check these guys out. So then once the question came up, many of us wanted to ask that question.
Fine. If you're so determined to get these questions answered, when are you going to start asking where Sarah Palin's birth certificate is? Just to balance things out.
The minute she runs for president.
You will?
Absolutely. I would say at this point in time, we have now established we need to see the proof that you're qualified no matter who it is.
Great. So you would like to see every candidate now produce...
I think we need to Either that
Proof
or
that they're Americans.
create a panel, a government panel that hopefully we could trust. Wait a minute. Never mind. Yeah, I would want to see it.
Are you an American? Were you born here?
Hopelessly, yes.
I've got a feeling you probably were.
Yeah, good feeling.
Hard to
Good
imagine you
hunch.
being born anywhere
You
else.
have some instincts. Are
I
you
have.
a predator?
Newt Gingrich?
I probably the smartest guy out there, and when he speaks for me.
Would you vote for him?
Right now, yes.
Interesting. Tim Pawlenty.
A great man, did great things up there in Minnesota. Am I right, Minnesota? Great man. When he speaks logic. He speaks Constitution and Bill of Rights. I like that.
Why are you such a big fan of Sarah Palin?
Because it's the quintessential American politics. And let me run you down the timeline. Housewife, mother, Alaska, taking care of homes. Saw some politics that she didn't think was right. Started asking questions, found out that her hunches were right and that there was corruption and there was misdirection in the local government of, I believe, Wasilla, Alaska, right next to Trappers Creek where I bear hunt. And she got involved as just a citizen. She became mayor because she voiced concerns that were supported by the majority of her neighbors. Pure politics, American we the people politics personified. And then she identified other corruption and less than ideal performance by politicians. She became governor with the support of the majority. A housewife, mayor, governor, and then brought in, I never even heard of her until my buddy John wanted her to be the vice presidential candidate. And then I did some research and I went, no wonder I like Alaska so much. You had an ass kicker in there, had somebody taking care of business, fixing things, getting rid of wasteful taxes and demanding accountability. So I admire Sarah Palin across the board. Great woman, perfect American.
Other than that, you're quite keen, eh?
Other than that, what?
You're quite keen on that.
Yes, I'm keen on that. Plus, she's so good looking.
I need a break after that quite nauseating tribute. So we have a short break.
You're
Ted.
damn right.
And hang on, I'm turning off the video on the video stream. So anyway, they finished talking about gun control, which is the segment that I wanted to play. Now, the reason I bring this up, the reason I bring up the clip of Ted Nugent, ladies and gentlemen, as I said before at the beginning of the program, Tuesday marks the 1 year anniversary. In fact, it's not really been an anniversary, but it's the 1 year mark on Tuesday since the Aurora Theater Massacre. And as I said, the liberal left is going to make the 1 year anniversary all about gun restriction, taking away our guns, making us unarmed and helpless, guilting people into turning in their guns, blaming it on conservatives, and it's absolutely going to become really bad. I absolutely cannot stand these gun. I cannot stand these gun control freaks who want to absolutely disarm me and make me unarmed and helpless. Anyway, let me take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And anyway, I have some more audio about the conservative youth movement and whatnot. There is some hilarious banter going on here in the chat room that I have to respond to as well. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Whitfield Analysis. Alright, folks, welcome back to the program. The email address, if you want to email me, is sam@cowgirlnation.com. Follow me on Twitter at samw_NGC. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we pretty much spent the first hour talking about, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I spent pretty much the first hour, talking about Ted Nugent and the, gun control. And Ted Nugent. Anyway, my point in talking all that is, as I said before, the left is going to make Tuesday, which is the 1-year mark of the Aurora theater shooting, they're going to use that to their advantage to make it all about gun control and blaming the evil conservatives, quote unquote, about what happened. And I'm writing an article for Cowgirl Nation in which I'm going to explain that more in depth. But just keep in mind, folks, that's my prediction, that they are going to politicize the Aurora shooting 1-year mark. They're going to politicize this tragedy once again for their own purposes and whatnot. And don't say I didn't tell you, because it is going to happen. Alright, anyway, another thing that I want to get into in the second hour is, it's something that I haven't talked about a lot here, but I do want to spend a little bit of time during the second hour to discuss my personal history and how I got into broadcasting, because I don't think I've explained that too much, at least not on my tenure here at JFN. I haven't really talked about that, so anyway, so I guess the easiest way to start this is, the story is, back when I was, in, oh gosh, back when I was in 5th grade, so I was 10, or maybe I was in 4th, I can't remember, but either way, I was 10 or 11. I was 10, and my parents were going through a really bad divorce, which I don't want to get into the divorce itself, but it wasn't that great of a situation, and so, to make a long story short, strange enough, that was when I started becoming interested in politics too. Social studies and government had always been one of my favorite subjects in school, and back then, the 2008 election was happening. And, I mean, the 2004 election was happening too. sorry if I said '08. That was a gaffe on my part. So um, so during that time, I really started getting interested in politics on my own, and my mother had started listening to talk radio too at that point, or I guess she had started listening to talk radio when I was in the car with her at that point, and I remember one day I was it was after my parents had officially divorced and they had separated, and I remember uh, my mother on great occasion every once in a while would bring me to work with her. And she was working for a family owned garden store up in up here in Colorado, and she would bring me in to work with her every once in a while. And on the way back, she would listen to Hugh Hewitt, and I remember Hugh Hewitt, who has become one of my greatest influences in talk radio. Uh, he was talking about John Kerry and how he was blaming the Vietnam Swift boat vets and turning them into monsters and whatnot. And I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but it all seemed very fascinating to me. And I remember he was talking to other things too. And I remember he cut to commercial break, and I remember we were driving down the road, and when he cut to commercial break, I remember my mother pulled over to the side of the road during rush hour traffic. Uh, and so she pulled off to the side of the road, and I remember I was sitting directly behind her, and I will never forget this moment for as long as I live. But she looked back at me, and she asked me, Sam, do you understand how great this country is? And I said, um, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Mom. What do you mean? And uh, she said, well, Sam, she said, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about ready to say, because this is very important. But she said, Sam, this is the only country in America. I mean, again, gaff. Let me start over. She said, this is the only country in the world where anyone can truly achieve freedom and truly achieve happiness. And this is the only nation in the world where immigrants can come and better their lives. And she said, you come from two very distinct ethnic groups, Sam. She said, you're Italian on my mother's side. She said, you're Italian on my side of the family. And she said, you're Irish on your father's side. And both of your ancestors came to America to seek. They came to America because they sought better lives for themselves. And my great grandfather came over here from Italy with just a couple of coins in his pocket, spare change, got off the boat at Ellis Island, and he went to work in the factories. And he didn't have much, but our family was richer here in America being poor than they were being poor in Italy. And same thing with my dad's side of the family, ladies and gentlemen. And so and she went on to explain to me too how my father's side, my great grandfather on my dad's side, was an Irish carriage maker, and he came over here from Ireland to escape the potato famine in Ireland. So both sides of my family are European immigrants. But she said both of your ancestors started out in poverty, but they worked hard and they went on to achieve great things. And then their children went on to achieve great things, and then their children. And the bloodline continues with you, Sam. And so she said that this country is so full of opportunity, Sam. She said, even you, Sam, you're in a wheelchair. You were given a disability when you were born, or you were labeled with a disability, but you haven't let that stop you thus far. And Sam, I know you're going to do great things in your life. And don't let anyone else tell you differently. But also remember that it's because you live here in America that you're able to achieve such great things. And Sam, there are people out in the world, in other countries, who are jealous that you have that opportunity to achieve here to achieve success here in America, and they want to destroy America. And just remember that it's because you're an American that that you're able to succeed so much. And folks, I realize I just butchered that speech, my mother's speech to me a little bit. I realize I butchered that to you guys here on radio. I mean, what? I was only 10 years old when I heard that. You can't expect me to remember every single line. But considering that it's almost been 10 years or so since I heard that, I think I did a pretty damn good job of, kind of retelling that speech. Folks, basically her point to me was that there are people here in America who are envious of the success that I could have because I'm an American. And folks, that speech would change, that talk that she had with me would change my life forever, because then I would go on to study and really pay attention and really learn what America is all about and what American politics is all about. So anyway, folks, I'm going to take another quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about how Rush Limbaugh and Hugh Hewitt became my two main influences, and how I would eventually go on to become a talk radio show host. Anyway, we'll be right back, folks. Leave your comments below. Again, email me, sam@cowgirlnation.com, and tweet me, sam @samw_NGC. Folks, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Alright, folks, welcome back to the program. That bumper goes out to Eric, a fellow police fan. That was Synchronicity Part 2. The Police was another. That was one of my favorite bands actually growing up. Anyway, I Detest Michael. Michael James sent me an email over the break. Michael sent me an email over the break, and the email that he writes to me is, "I'm gonna give you an offer you can't refuse." Anyway, man, sup. The story was touching. However, I must say it's no longer a place of the brave or the free. And I will read the emails. First of all, Michael, that's very funny. That's very funny. Your comment about. I love the Godfather reference, my friend. Michael, I believe that this country is still the land of the brave and the home of the free, or the reverse, as it goes. This country is still a place filled with people who want to do good. So, and this country still is the greatest nation on earth, and don't let anyone else say differently. Anyway, folks, continuing on with my story. So, during the commercial break, before the commercial break, I told you about how my mother spoke to me about how this country truly is the greatest nation on earth. And that conversation changed my life forever. And it would spur me on to become the young conservative warrior I am today. Now, after that conversation, I was so inspired that I began reading everything I could on the Founding Fathers, and on what the Declaration of Independence meant, and I just, after hearing my mother's speech, I became more curious about this country's history, and so I got everything I could. I got my hands on everything I could about the history of the country, the American Revolution. And when I read about the American Revolution, I fell in love, and I fell in love with this country, and I became awestruck with how truly amazing the Founding Fathers were, and what they stood for. They truly are the greatest. I believe, folks, that the Founding Fathers are truly the greatest human beings in the history of this country, and in the history of the world. I believe that they've done more for humanity than any other group of men have ever done, besides Jesus and the disciples. But anyway, so I got a hold on as much information about this country as I could, and I studied it, and I studied the early writings of the Founding Fathers, and And around that time, also, and folks, you'll have to pardon me. I've got the window blowing. I've got the window open in my office, and you might hear the wind blowing here for a little bit. I'm going to try and turn the sensitivity down on my mic, but I'm not sure whether or not that will help with the wind. So anyway, hopefully it'll help a little bit, but there's no guarantee that it will help to fix the situation indefinitely. Anyway, folks, as I was saying, I hope you can still hear me okay. As I was saying before, I got everything I could about the Founding Fathers, and I really began to study what the Constitution meant and whatnot. Now, keep in mind, this was all during the 2004 presidential election. So, in addition to reading about the Founding Fathers, I was keeping up with current events. And more in particular, I had started listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, and there was just something about the way Rush spoke that I absolutely fell in love with. He was just he just symbolized a really cool guy and a really fresh voice on radio. I can't remember exactly when I started listening to him, but I just remember that whenever I listened to him, his voice just really showed passion and whatnot. And now it's raining here. Folks, and it's looking like some of this rain is trying to come in, so let me see if I can quote. And anyway, so I began listening to Rush, and I was also listening to NPR though too, which is more progressive. And so, to make a long story short, folks, in keeping up with current events and reading up the history of the Founding Fathers and reading the history of the nation and whatnot, I eventually decided on my own that conservative values made the most sense to me, and that the conservative ideology really hit who I am as a person. And I just became extremely passionate about this country and what it stands for. And that, my friends, would spur me on and would later inspire me to become a talk show host, which I will talk about how that actually happened when I get back from commercial break. Stay tuned, folks. You're listening to the Whitfield Analysis on Junior Factor Nation. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I basically recorded my 15-minute rant on all of my political views and what I felt was going on in the world at the time, and I basically said what I felt needed to be said. So the episode ran about 15 minutes, and I emailed it to my mom, and I emailed it to a couple of my friends, and I said, Mom, I got this idea to do a talk radio show, and to educate kids my age, and this is my first try. What do you think of it? So she took a listen to it, and she said, Sam, that's it. She said, Sam, that's pretty damn good for your first time. And so I tried it about 5 more times, and before I knew it, I fell in love with podcasting, and the rest is history. Now, at the time, I was recording podcasts from my computer, and the neighbor's dog is barking incessantly again. Hey! Mutt, shut up! It's the neighbor's dog, probably won't listen to me. Anyway, as I was saying, oh good lord. Folks, bear with me. The dog is barking incessantly, and it's just driving me insane. Anyway, as I was saying, I did about 5 or 6 episodes on my computer, and more episodes, and I decided I really liked it. So I started doing the podcast more regularly, and I would pre-record the episodes, and then I would upload them to this website called Podbean, and which is where I hosted my first couple of shows and whatnot. So then, fast forward to 2010. I'm a freshman in high school, and my show had gained some traction at that point. The Whitfield Nation was the name of my first show, and I began getting a following and whatnot. So then I discovered Blog Talk Radio, and began broadcasting on Blog Talk Radio. And I did that for a couple of years. And in my sophomore year of high school, that's a pretty interesting story, because my sophomore year of high school, during the first semester, I had some physical therapy I had to do. And so that first semester, I left my brick and mortar high school, and I attended an online high school, which turned out to be a disaster, but in terms of the academics, because online school is very challenging, and they really, their curriculum sucked, and they didn't know what was what, and but long story short, while I was in the online school, I met 2 very good friends, Trevor Lawrence Johnson and Luke Kaninsky, who would later go on to co-found Next Gen Conservative with me. and they became two of my best friends, and still are two of my very best friends to this day. And so even afterwards, even after I went back to my brick and mortar high school the second semester of my sophomore year, we still stayed in touch and whatnot. And they were my uh, loyal co-hosts for a while, and my two other colleagues at Next Gen Conservative, and they really helped me get it started and whatnot. And we were going places. We were taking on the world. My radio show was growing in popularity, and I had a really good thing going, and it was really incredible. And we were going really strong up until the 2012 election hit, and when Obama won re-election. And I will go into more detail into what happened when we get back from commercial break. Sorry I'm taking so many commercial breaks. I'm just taking I've just gotta go take a quick drink and whatnot, and so I'll play a long commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned, and we'll continue on with the story when we get back. Stay tuned. All right, folks, we're back. Welcome back to the Whitfield Analysis. And it's been awfully quiet in the chat room. So, Michael, Eric, I am wondering if you're still here. Whether or not I am still going to continue on with my story. Anyway, folks, so as I said, I met Trevor and Luke, and we became partners, and we founded Next Gen Conservative together, and everything seemed to be going pretty well up until January of 2013. And that was a pretty eye-opening time for all of us, but especially for me. Folks, Barack Obama won re-election, and it was pretty devastating to all of us, but I was determined to push on. I wasn't going to let the election get me down. I was dedicated to, I've been dedicated to fighting liberalism as best I can, and that's what I'm continuing to do. And really, I've never really discussed this much, but I think that Trevor and Luke were a little more discouraged than I was. I think the re-election of Barack Obama was devastating to them, and things weren't quite the same after the election of Obama. We started arguing. We started having major disagreements over what to do. I mean, it was, for a while we couldn't agree on anything at Next Gen Conservative, it seemed like, and whatnot. During that time, I was contacted by a young man named Caden Cowger, and Caden Cowger had found my show on Blog Talk Radio, and he had contacted me and wanted to discuss some stuff, and so I initiated contact with him, and we just really hit it off and became close immediately. And I liked the way his politics were. He liked the way my politics. We liked a lot of personal things, and so we just hit it off. And so he wanted to talk about joining Next Gen Conservative, but Trevor Johnson and Noah Kaminsky weren't too happy about that. And it really they, for some reason, I don't know why, they just didn't. I don't know if it was that they didn't like Hayden Cowger, or if they just disagreed with him or whatnot. But either way, there was some tension over the Caden. But that was all irrelevant because we were more or less having disagreements on other things. And so one night, Trevor called me and he said, "I quit. I can't do this anymore. We've been arguing way too much. And I'm not sure I can do this anymore." And folks, it was absolutely devastating because you have to understand, Trevor was and still is one of my very best friends. And so for him to all of a sudden leave Next Gen Conservative, something that he and I had built together, was absolutely devastating. But I knew I wasn't going to quit. And so during that time, I had also met Jason Veely. And Jason and I hit it off immediately. And Jason talked to me about joining Junior Factor Nation. He contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in joining Junior Factor Nation. And at the time, Trevor and I were still partners, and we were trying to work things out. But it wasn't really going that well. But I told Jason at the time, I said, "Jason, I really appreciate your offer, but I'm not sure if I can join right now. I have too many things going on in my own organization. I'm going through too many things in my own organization to consider joining right now." And so he was very understanding. And he said, "I understand, contact me if you change your mind." And so I kept his contact info, and he and I were friends on Facebook, and we kept in touch, and we got to know each other better. And like I said, Trevor and I were still trying to patch things up, but it really wasn't going all that well. We just, like I said, we couldn't agree on many things, and it was becoming a disaster. So after Trevor resigned, I didn't know what to do. I was distraught. I was really angry. I was upset. I felt like I had failed as the leader of Next Gen Conservative. And to this day, there are still some feelings about it that I have, that maybe I could have, that maybe there was a way we could have patched things up, but it's irrelevant. But I also knew that I had to continue doing broadcasting. I had to continue fighting for the conservative youth movement. And so but I didn't know where to go. And so I was praying about it one night, and I just asked God to touch me and give me guidance. And so the next morning, I went to school, and I was thinking about it, and it was really kind of bothering me. But I didn't let it bother me too much, and so when I was on my way home from school, this was earlier in March of this year, I texted Jason. He and I had exchanged numbers at that point. I texted Jason and said, hey, here's what's going on. My partner's just resigned from Next Gen Conservative. I've pretty much lost my organization, other than the name. Are you still okay with me joining Junior Factor Nation? And he said, he basically put it to me this way. He said, absolutely, man. He said, we'd love to have you. Welcome to the family. And folks, the rest is pretty much history. Shortly there, about 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, he offered me the opportunity to broadcast live on Junior Factor Nation, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So anyway, that is my history of being a talk radio show host in basically an hour and a half. That's my entire history of who I am as a talk show host. And I am so grateful to be part of this organization. We're just doing amazing things and whatnot, and it's an absolutely incredible organization. So when we come back, I'm going to wrap up this episode, but I do want to talk a little bit about the conservative youth movement at the end here today. So anyway, folks, I'll be right back. Final commercial break of the show, and we'll be right back for wrap up. Stay tuned. I've had a great time tonight discussing the gun control issue and talking about my history as a talk show host. And again, it's really been an honor to join Junior Factor Nation and be a part of a great talk radio network and whatnot. Anyway, folks, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of the Whitfield Analysis. But before I leave for tonight, I do want to play a clip from Caden Cowger, and because I think that this pretty much sums up what I've been called to do here at Junior Factor Nation. I think it really symbolizes what I've been called to do here, and Caden gave me a very nice compliment on his last appearance on Factor Talk Radio, and it means a lot to me. So anyway, here is a clip of Caden Cowger talking about me and the conservative youth movement as a whole. This made my day when I heard it on Monday, and I think he's very generous with his words. Wow, Caden, that's very kind words, my friend. Thank you. And thank you, the listeners, for tuning in tonight and listening to the Whitfield Analysis. You guys are truly the greatest audience anyone could ask for. And I'll be back tomorrow for another episode. Until then, God bless, and have a good evening. Good night, folks.